Okay guys, we're talking about Trials today, and no, we're not gonna sound depressed every time we talk about Trials. You'd think we were at a funeral. Now Trials has left us for almost a year now. We were told that it wasn't gonna return in Season 4, so we all expected it to return in Season 5 with like Black Armory. Then Bungie kind of stayed quiet about it. And then finally, Bungie put a post together and stated that Trials is not something that's being worked on and will be held off for the time being. Now, it wasn't until the announcement of Shadowkeep when Trials was finally brought up again. Luke Smith essentially said there's a lot of foundational problems that need to be addressed first before ever reintroducing Trials back into Destiny. Now, during the Vidoc, we did get to see screenshots of Bungie employees and developers playing Elimination. And then this past Friday, Luke actually confirmed the return of Elimination as actually 4 3v3 variants that they'll be testing this season when Shadowkeep launches. There was also, of course, the mention of Trials, where Luke Smith essentially said that Trials of the Nine didn't work the way we'd hoped, and Trials of the Nine is on hiatus indefinitely. But notice that 9 is in italics, which makes many of us speculate that Trials of Osiris will be the one that's going to return over something like Trials of the Nine. But today's video is not necessarily a dig at what is or what's not returning. I want to get into the why. Why was Trials dropped after being one of the biggest pinnacle in-game activities for PvP players for years? Now, before we get into today's video, we have a sponsorship. Shout out to the game Raid Shadow Legends, which is actually a good game. I know I said that kind of surprisingly, but normally I don't put a lot of stock in mobile games. Now this one is a turn-based strategy game with a crap load of RPG elements. I'm talking gear sets, auras, champion bonuses, as well as many tiers of champions that you unlock as you progress through the game. It's got a PvE mode as well as a PvP mode and a ton of different champions that you can choose from, even from the get-go. Probably my favorite champion to choose from right off the bat is Gallic. Hey man, he's dual wielding axes. How can you not choose this guy? Now something that annoys me about most mobile games is that it intentionally runs you up against a wall, and then after that it puts up a paywall essentially in order for you to progress. Something I really like about Raid, guys, it greatly rewards you for playtime. There's so many things you can do in this game to acquire currency, buy items, to get gear sets without running you into that paywall. Now down below is a link that will actually give you an extra 50,000 silver, and I do have a clan open. Don't have any members, all right? Come on! I would love to do some of these clan activities, so feel free to join, guys, if you happen to be playing this game. Thank you, Raid Shadow Legends, for sponsoring this video. Now, back to Trials, guys. Why was Trials originally pulled? I think a big reason why was we were going into Forsaken, and the sandbox was changing so much. We went from double primaries to one-hit kill specials. Time to kill across the board was dropped for pretty much all of our weapons. And I think Bungie just didn't want to deal with the stress of Trials while simultaneously trying to introduce this new sandbox. And that's the thing about Trials. Whether it was Trials of Osiris or Trials of the Nine, it was a double-edged sword. It brought in players, it entertained them on the weekends, it kept things spicy on Twitch. But the other side of things is that it exposed your sandbox more than any other playlist ever. Because when things are on the line, and you're trying to get to that 9th win, and you die to some bullcrap, even in comp, I think a lot of us just be like, it's Destiny. What are you gonna do? The architects killed me. Oh well. But inside of Trials, if it costs you your win, oh my God, prepare yourselves, because somebody's hitting the forums, or Reddit, or Twitter, or YouTube, and they are about to lose it. I was one of those guys. I've been DDoSed a few times out of comp. Does it bother me? Yes. But I haven't actually made a video about it, have I? No. But if you DDoS me while I'm in the middle of doing a Sherpa run in Trials, oh, I'm coming after you. I did it to Clay. I got him banned for a year. I know he's back. Be honest with you, he didn't go anywhere, guys. He probably had another account. I've probably played with him a few times. The amount of modems I have changed. I got so many VPNs in my house. I got one for my mobile device. Hell, I just bought a washer yesterday. Came with Wi-Fi. Slapped a VPN on that thing. We're not taking any chances. You see things already starting to get a little heightened? See, this is what happens when Trials is introduced in the conversation. I start taking things a little too personally. Now, Trials wasn't introduced in Forsaken because, well, the sandbox was just so shaken up. And the last thing Bungie needed to happen was a bunch of people saying, hey, why is this weapon called Dust Rock Blues so good? And if you thought all the people complaining about things like Telesto at the time, Not Forgotten, Luna's Howl, hell, even something more recently, Lord of Wolves. Can you imagine the stress Lord of Wolves would have put on the Sandbox team had it been broken in an environment like Trials? Now, Bungie could be taking the approach that Luke Smith said. They wanted to get the foundation right, aka they want to make sure everything's perfect before ever introducing something like Trials that would put their sandbox in the spotlight. Smart. I wouldn't do it either, which is why we made a video a few months ago talking about why Trials probably won't be returning, which is why I completely understand from a developer perspective of why Bungie's been skittish when it comes to Trials. But despite that double-edged sword, back in Destiny 1, especially during the House of Wolves meta, the route taking king, the benefits of Trials far outweighed the cons. People were buying Destiny just for the Trials experience. I had friends that would come over and watch me play Trials, and they haven't played a Bungie game since like Halo 3, but they would still sit down and watch and get into it. Which, if there's something you could say about a game, a successful game is one that can grab your attention and root you on the spot without you having any type of history with that game. Trials would do that for people. Whatever it was that made up that formula was never brought to us with Trials of the Nine. Trials of the Nine started off so strong. That first week, I don't know, what did we have? Almost 1 million players playing Trials of the Nine that first week. I could be off there. It was at least 500,000, but there was a lot of players inside that playlist, and that was the height. After that, everything just trickled down to the point that in the last week of Trials before Forsaken, it was way down. Now, in Trials' defense, Destiny 2 as a whole was down, as in the PvE side of things, as well as just regular base PvP was all at its height at Destiny 2 on release, and then down at alarming rates all the way until Forsaken. Forsaken is what revived Destiny 2. Sure, Warmind was a good DLC. It definitely sparked some things, but it was not until Forsaken that the game saw real life again. What I'm concerned about is the associations with Trials. Many players state that the reason why we were in the situation that we were in D2's original Sandbox is because of the influence from Destiny PvP players. Now, as much influence as some of those guys may have, I don't think anyone ever could have guessed the double primary 1.2 time to kill Destiny Sandbox that came when D2 dropped. Like, we saw it in the beta, and I was concerned even then, but I was like, man, maybe this is just a beta. Like, we always say that statement, right? It's just a beta. Anthem, oh, it's just a beta. Come on, bro. It'll be fixed when the game launches. The amount of wisdom we have acquired over the years because of this gives us like a zero bullshit tolerance to the whole it's just a beta, bro. But even back in the beta for D2, yeah, I knew even then. I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to believe that I was in the minority, and I knew that this formula would never work whether Trials was present in Destiny 2 or not. And I think a part of us actually enjoyed D2's beta for like a day because it tore us away from the sidearm sticky grenade meta back in Destiny 1. Like, just getting a break from that, not being killed by a wormwood, not being killed by a fusion grenade from across the map. It was nice, but despite that relief, it was not fun and not sustainable. And unfortunately, PvP players as well as Trials has been associated with the decision to go with that sandbox direction when Destiny 2 first launched, which is unfortunate. I think Bungie, all on their own, despite whatever influence PvP players may have had or have, that was on Bungie. That was their decision. And that, in combination with a number of other things, resulted in their game almost dying within the first 6 months of release. It was rough, boys. And I think a lot of us are concerned that if Trials was to return, things would be rough again. But I'm here to say that Trials is not the foundation that Luke Smith is talking about, nor is it anywhere close. This foundation that Luke Smith is talking about has been something that's been in the work now for many months, since Forsaken. Before Forsaken, the time to kill values, the way our weapon loadouts work, now moving into the Armor 2.0 system. This may create a separation when it comes to certain mods, to the point where balance is more achievable inside of PvP. But despite the word balance being brought up constantly, because I see so many people say it all the time, man, Bungie are idiots. This game is so imbalanced. Listen, there's some really balanced first-person shooter games out there. Go play them. If you want balance, by all means, check them out. But the majority of Destiny players, if not all of us, myself included, we enjoy the chaos that Destiny brings. About the only thing I have called out this year to get nerfed has been Lord of Wolves. One Eye Mask, it's been walking that line for a very long time, but I haven't exactly jumped out there and said this thing needs to get cut down. I wouldn't be against it, but I more or less disown it and make sure any build that we put out does not involve One Eye Mask. But the reality is, when it comes to Trials, guys, it has some poor associations, something of which Bungie recognizes. I think many players would enjoy coming back to Trials, but I think taking this season and implementing elimination is going to be Bungie's way of gauging the popularity of that playlist and whether or not Trials is even going to fit that mold like it used to. Personally, I feel like Trials worked better with elimination and with the return of some of our older D1 maps, Widow's Court, Twilight Gap. Yes, those maps are coming back in Shadowkeep, which were two really good maps for both elimination and for Trials. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out. Is Trials going to be returning? As of Shadowkeep, no. Afterward, it's really going to depend on the elimination playlist. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.